For more content like this, please hit like and subscribe. Revelation, a Book of Visions, Introduction Part 8, the wrap-up. If you have been doing the study up until now, what we've been doing is learning to allow Scripture to interpret Scripture. To understand the book of Revelation, which is admittedly a difficult book, you need to understand something about apocalyptic literature, about Second Temple Judaism, and about the Roman Empire. But the most important tool you need is a deep familiarity with the Bible itself. The Bible will shed light on the Bible. And so I've been encouraging you for 7 studies to use the Bible to help you understand the book of Revelation. Because if I'm successful, you will be able to read the book of Revelation and understand much of it for yourself. Verse 1a, the revelation or the apocalypse of, from, and about Jesus. The book of Revelation recounts a prophet's symbolic dreams or visions which reveal God's perspective on history or current events. The purpose is so that history can be viewed in light of the final outcome. Prophecy is a word from God spoken through a prophet to warn or comfort people during a time of crisis. Revelation, like all true prophecies, stands in continuity with the Old Testament prophets, who are not really predicting the future so much as they are revealing God's perspective on the human story. The book of Revelation was written to real people living at the end of the first century. In other words, Revelation was not written to us, even though, like all scripture, it was written for us and all of God's people. The book of Revelation was a circular letter being sent out to 7 real congregations, and the order in which these churches were addressed is the same order in which you would have encountered them if you had followed the Roman highway that traversed throughout that part of Asia Minor. Though they are 7 real churches, the number 7 plays an important symbolic role in the book of Revelation. The meaning seems to mean completion or perfection. We see the number 7 being used in this way throughout much of the book of Revelation. And it really seems that we should consider it symbolically here as well. If so, then these 7 churches somehow represent the entirety of the church throughout the world and history. Through them, John and Jesus are speaking to God's people as a whole. As we have already seen, John draws heavily from the imagery found in the Old Testament, expecting his people to understand what he's talking about. He is retelling the story of the Old Testament in light of who Jesus is. In other words, this is not a secret code to be broken by psychics, clairvoyants, or professors speaking with special knowledge. Nor is it a secret code for unlocking the truth about the dates and times pertaining to the end of the world. Because it is a letter to real people and real communities of faith, its message is addressing their particular situations. That means that while the message has much to offer the church living in other places and times in history, we must understand the set of circumstances it was originally written to address. That is the only way we can then begin trying to understand what the book might mean for us. So I want to encourage you to reread the book of Revelation, trying to think about what it might have meant to first century Christians living in the Roman Empire. Make notes about any insights you might have. Here are some questions for discussion and reflection. Understanding the context. Why is it important to remember that Revelation was written to specific churches in the first century? What dangers might we fall into if we ignore that historical context? Number 2, Revelation draws heavily on the Old Testament. What are some examples of this you've noticed? How might this help you interpret the visions found in Revelation? Number 3, John seems to be retelling the Old Testament story in light of who Jesus is. How does this approach challenge or deepen your understanding of Revelation as a New Testament book? The purpose of prophecy. Question number 4. According to the study, prophecy reveals God's perspective on history, especially during times of crisis. How might this reshape how we use or think about prophetic text like the one we're reading? Number 5. Do you find Revelation more comforting or more unsettling? Why? How does seeing it as a letter of comfort and warning affect your reading? Symbolism and the church. Question 6. Why do you think the number 7 is so prominent in the book of Revelation? How might the 7 churches represent the universal church throughout time and history? Number 7. What messages to the 7 churches seem especially relevant to the church today? Which one most speaks to your own church's context? Reading with first century eyes. Question number 8. Try to imagine yourself as a Christian in Asia Minor under Roman rule. What would Revelation's imagery and message stir up in you? Hope, fear, or resolve? Question number 9. What specific challenges might those early believers have faced that Revelation addresses symbolically? Can you identify modern parallels? Application and reflection. Question 10. How can we faithfully apply a book like Revelation today without distorting its meaning? What principles should guide our interpretation? Number 11. Where in your life or church community do you most need the kind of comfort, correction, or courage Revelation offers? Question number 12. If Revelation is about seeing the present in light of the final outcome, how might this help you face your current trials or concerns?